What does it mean to bring order to chaos? In 1997, id Software, the creators of Doom, were no longer just the kings of the genre. They were the genre. And with Quake II, they faced a monumental task to make a follow-up act that would redefine first-person shooters and usher in a whole new universe in true 3D worlds. But instead of just repeating themselves, they executed a pivot so sharp it set a new standard. Quake II is a story of refinement, of taking the raw, gothic chaos of the original and forging it into a cohesive industrial-strength war machine. It was a game that embraced a new kind of environment and world-building that traded the abstract realms of the original Quake for the industrial hellscape of the Stroggos homeworld to create one of the most impactful and brutally efficient shooters of all time. Let me show you exactly how they pulled that off. In the first part of this video, we'll deep dive into the legacy of this PC gaming titan. We'll explore its shift to a unified sci-fi vision against the terrifying Strogg, break down the symphony of destruction of its weapons arsenal, and see how its legendary thrash metal soundtrack took the action to a whole new level. In the second part, we'll totally geek out on the revolutionary Quake II engine that pushed 3D hardware to its limits and powered a generation of classics. And we'll examine how its skill-based multiplayer laid the groundwork for modern-day esports. So strap in, we're going to see how the legendary developers at id Software took a classic formula and sharpened it to a razor's edge. The first Quake was a masterpiece of mood, but its identity was fractured, a blend of medieval and monstrous. Quake II represents a moment of brilliant focus. id Software jettisoned the abstract level design for a structured, mission-based campaign. You're a Marine, part of a massive planetary assault against the Strogg, a cybernetic race of terrifying killers. This wasn't about stumbling through random portals. It was about a direct, bloody invasion. The level design now had a more logical flow. You had objectives: destroy the generator, secure the bunker, and assassinate the commander. This gave the violence a purpose, a narrative thrust that was new for id Software. The industrial sci-fi aesthetic was consistent and oppressive, from the grimy metal corridors to the grotesque biomechanical fusion of the Strogg themselves. This was a universe with a clear, hateable enemy, and as a Marine, you were the hammer sent to smash them. So let's break down the suicide mission that puts you on the front lines of that invasion. While the narrative served the action, Quake II's premise provided a powerful and motivating context. The game is set during Operation Alien Overlord, humanity's desperate, all-or-nothing counteroffensive against the Strogg. This cybernetic race is a terrifying foe, not only for conquering worlds, but for harvesting them, dismembering other species to create new Strogg soldiers and machinery. You play as Corporal Bitterman, a Marine whose drop pod is knocked off course during the initial planetary assault, causing him to crash land far from the primary landing zone. He is, effectively, the last man standing. The mission is a surgical deep strike behind enemy lines to cripple the Strogg planetary defenses, clearing the way for the human fleet. This isn't a random crawl, it's a methodical dismantling of their war machine, with each objective escalating the stakes. Your orders, delivered via a tactical computer, are clear and take the fight right to the enemy. The first objective is to fight through the outer hangars and comm facility to establish a communications uplink. This is your lifeline, allowing command to relay intel and update your mission parameters. From there, you push into the heart of their industry. You'll fight through the factory and the mainframe to sabotage their power grid, and descend into the mines to destroy the Stadium processing plant, crippling the energy source that fuels their entire civilization and its planetary defense weapon, the Big Gun. The journey is paved with the grotesque inhabitants of Stroggos. You'll face the relentless charge of berserkers with their hydraulic fists, dodge the molten hot spray projectiles of the gunners, and be hunted by the gladiators with their freakish mechanized legs and shoulder-mounted railgun. The Gladiator is the big daddy of all the Stroggified humanoids. The campaign is punctuated by epic boss encounters against Strogg warlords. You don't just destroy baseless machinery, you assassinate key commanders like the gargantuan tank commander who first appears in the Unit 9 Palace mission. Your ultimate goal is to fight your way into the very heart of the Strogg capital, Cerberon, and ascend to the palace to assassinate the Strogg leader, the Macron, in his orbital asteroid base. The final battle consists of 2 stages. First, with the Macron piloting the Jorg exoskeleton. After you smash that, the Macron dismounts to resume the fight, where you can give him a proper beatdown in his final form. It's a straightforward tale of vengeance and persistence, but the specific objectives, from blowing up a power generator to calling in an airstrike on a bunker, gives a palpable sense of purpose to every firefight. You're not just surviving, you're single-handedly and systematically dismantling the alien war machine, one assigned target at a time. This, my friends, is the definition of how to make a great single-player campaign. Now, before we get into the heavy-duty firepower this game puts at your disposal, I'd like to invite you to subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is always here for a quick retro gaming break whenever you need it. I appreciate your support, since it's the only way that YouTube will highlight my videos and help my channel to grow. Alright, so let's get into the most important question. What are you fighting with? And to help you fight your way through this seemingly suicide mission is Quake II's Arsenal of Annihilation. Now, if the original Quake's weapons felt a little unrealistic or esoteric, then Quake II's arsenal was a symphony of utilitarian destruction. Every gun had a visceral, immediate purpose. The shotgun was a reliable workhorse. The hyper blaster was a searing stream of plasma. The railgun, a weapon that would become synonymous with the franchise, was a perfect risk-reward instrument of pinpoint death. But the star was the double-barreled shotgun. Its thunderous sound and devastating impact at close range made it a tool of pure, unadulterated power. And the gameplay loop was refined down to the very sharpest razor's edge. Movement was fast and fluid, which allowed you to use this arsenal to turn the Strogg's industrial base into a fricking slaughterhouse. But the weapons were only half of the story. The other half was the soundscape that made every single shot feel so powerful. A major part of what gave the on-screen action such intensity was the legendary audio landscape of Quake II. In some ways, the game's sound and music is almost a character in itself. The sound design is some of the best of the era. Every weapon has a unique, powerful signature. From the satisfying, chunky sound of the shotgun reload, to the high-pitched whine of the hyperblaster. The guttural death groans of the Strogg and the slimy squelch of their bloody gibs hitting the floor create a tactile brutality in the combat. But towering above it all is the legendary soundtrack by Sonic Mayhem. This wasn't ambient noise. This was a full-throttle, aggressive thrash metal score whose driving beats and metal guitar riffs drive you forward through the entire experience. Tracks like Quad Machine and Gravity Well are relentless, pushing up the action with their pounding drums and shredding guitars that make you feel like an unstoppable force of nature, making the payback that you dish out to the Strogg feel so damn good. This was a radical departure from Trent Reznor's atmospheric work on the first game, and it's a perfect fit. The music elevated the mood, one of pure, adrenaline-fueled rage and momentum. Now, we need to talk about the engine room, the revolutionary tech that made all of this possible. Quake II was not just a game, it was a technological statement. It was built on a completely new engine, a true powerhouse that supported features like colored lighting, full 3D acceleration through OpenGL, and more detailed textures. This was a monumental leap from the software rendering of the original Quake. The engine allowed for dramatic shadows and colored lights that painted the grimy industrial environments in hues of hazard yellow and emergency red, while giant skyboxes created the illusion of a vast alien world behind the factory walls. For those who had a 3DFX Voodoo graphics card, Quake II was almost like a religious experience. The jump from the software rendering of chunky pixels and flat lighting in the first game To the slick, brightly lit, and incredibly smooth world of hardware acceleration was arguably one of the greatest visual leaps in PC gaming history. The game just looked and felt like it came from the future. Here's the crazy part. This engine wasn't just for Quake. Its code became the foundation for a whole generation of PC gaming classics, each leveraging its robust capabilities in different ways. Let me explain. Valve licensed the engine's source code and began a process of radical modification to be used in the original Half-Life. They started with the first Quake engine for rendering, but heavily incorporated code from Quake II, especially its sophisticated client-server networking model, which was essential for the smooth, lag-free multiplayer that would later power Counter-Strike. This hybrid foundation was transformed into Valve's own Gold SRC engine. Valve's team then rewrote and expanded upon this base with one goal: to tell a story. They implemented advanced scripted sequence systems that allowed environments to change and characters to act around the player, creating a living world without cutaways. They improved the character animation system far beyond id's needs, giving life and personality to the scientists and the security guards of Black Mesa. This meant that Half-Life's seamless, immersive narrative, where the player is always in control, was directly enabled by the flexible architecture of the Quake and Quake II engines. Raven Software later harnessed the Quake II engine's core power for the gritty, close-quarters combat of Soldier of Fortune, which used its capability for detailed model rendering to pioneer a then-shocking location-based gore system. I remember playing this and groaning as I'd take down baddies one limb at a time, and it was pretty sick back then. It still is. Jeez. And that story of pushing technology forward didn't stop in the 90s. Fast forward a few decades, and someone found a way to make Quake II look like it was released yesterday. The technological legacy of Quake II took a breathtaking new turn in 2019 with the release of Quake II RTX by NVIDIA. This wasn't a simple remaster. It was a ground-up reimagining of the game's rendering engine to fully utilize modern ray tracing technology. Ray tracing simulates the physical behavior of light, creating incredibly realistic lighting, shadows, and reflections in real time. In Quake II RTX, every light source is now physically accurate. The muzzle flash from your gun realistically illuminates the surrounding corridors. Colored lights from consoles cast vibrant glows that bounce off metallic surfaces, and the skybox becomes a genuine source of global illumination, flooding outdoor areas with soft, natural light. Reflections are no longer pre-baked or screen space. Every puddle and polished metal surface displays a perfect, real-time reflection of the world around it. The impact is transformative. The once static, pre-lit levels become dynamic, atmospheric, and tangibly physical. It took the industrial grit of the original and rendered it with a level of fidelity that the 1997 developers could only dream of, proving that great art design, when paired with revolutionary technology, is truly timeless. And real quick, if you enjoy this content, I've put a link in the description below of a playlist of all of my other videos that you might also enjoy, including a bunch of other technical deep dives like this one, for many of your favorite old school games, so check it out and stick around for a while. Now, all of this single-player brilliance is incredible, but to truly understand Quake II's lasting impact, you have to look at where its heart was, the arena. It took the foundation laid by the first Quake and built a coliseum. It was the game that truly popularized deathmatch on the internet, with streamlined client-server architecture that made online play more accessible than ever. It further popularized the concept of mods and total conversions to a massive audience, enabling game communities to create their own legends. And more than anything, Quake II established a purity of skill-based combat. The combination of rocket jumping and the unforgiving precision of the railgun created a skill ceiling that was, and still is, immense. Its legacy is the DNA of every competitive shooter that followed. It was the direct ancestor of Counter-Strike, a proving ground for esports, and a benchmark for PC performance for years. So why does the industrial grind of Quake II still resonate today? It's not just the nostalgia of LAN parties or the thrill of a perfect railgun shot. It's the feeling of having a premier developer at the peak of its competence, taking a beloved formula and fearlessly sanding away the rough edges to reveal a sharper, more focused experience beneath. It's the seamless fusion of a cohesive sci-fi world, a refined and brutal arsenal, a pulse-pounding metal soundtrack, and groundbreaking new gaming technology. Quake II is more than a sequel. It's a masterclass in iterative design. It's the feeling of a perfectly tuned game engine, and the unforgettable sight of a Strogg commando exploding into 100 chunks of polygon gore. It is, quite simply, the perfect execution of a brutal and powerful vision of what gaming could be. But that's just what I think. What's your take on Quake II? How does it stack up to other popular FPS of the time? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your views. And don't forget to hit that like button if you enjoyed the video. If you're new here, welcome to the channel. I'd like to invite you to subscribe for more feel-good retro gaming content. Alright my friends, this is the Retro Gaming Boss signing out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.